pretty smooth still. All right, so let's get this thing opened up. Just gonna take the reel handle off real quick. And yeah, just basic stuff right here. Moving the drag, taking the handle off. Seeing that after reeling this underwater, there's absolutely no water underneath the drag. You can see all just some grease right there. Maybe some water spots from the salt water, but I don't think that's, I think that's just grease. That's all grease underneath the drag right there. You can see some of the grease still on the screws, on the shaft of the reel. Everything looks pretty good so far. I did not take the drag apart underneath the spool because I did not want to mess that up. I know for sure there's no water in there because I caught some fish on that reel the day after, and that thing was still butter smooth with that Dura-Drag material. So gonna remove the screws from the side plate right here. They weren't super tight into the reel, which I've noticed on some of these reels, whether it be the Slammer or the Authority. So if you want, you could take a little bit of Loctite and put like the blue Loctite. You want the Loctite that you can remove. You do not want the red Loctite, I believe. That's the one that when you put that in there, it does not come off. So take the bottom plastic piece off, the protector. You gotta switch little bits right here. And we're gonna remove those screws as well. Really easy. All it takes is a star bit. So I think I used a star bit on the side plate screws, and then I think a couple of the screws on the inside of the reel took a Phillips head. No clue what size, so please do not ask me because I have no clue. So when I'm taking apart reels, I mean, I'm not the best at taking apart stuff when it comes to these reels. You can see here that piece right there. You got to be super careful with that piece there. I pinched the other one on the other Authority and broke it, so I got to replace that. You can see there's no water in that reel. That is all good grease. When your grease gets very milky colored, that's when you know water's gotten inside your reel, and all that grease looks pretty good. You can see everything looks pretty good in there. So now I went to that small Phillips head there. Going back to the seal that goes around the gearbox and the side part of the reel here, the side plate. When you're taking it apart or cleaning your reel, be real careful when you put that piece back in there because you can pinch it. So moving to the top of the reel, we're going to remove the rotor here. Got to switch my bits. Not using the right one. Going back to a smaller star bit here. We're going to remove all three of these screws from the protector here. That's going to hold your lock nut and your seal for your main shaft. So we'll take those guys off. Put everything. I always like to put everything in a nice little area so I don't lose. I put everything that goes together because if you start moving things around, you don't want to put one screw where it's not supposed to go. And that nut right there, I thought that was going to work. That one did not work. It was way too small. So I went and grabbed a bigger one. There we go. Gonna take that guy off. I thought I loosened it enough to twist it off with my fingers, but I did not. That thing is on there. Let's try and remove this seal. I thought I was going to take it off right there. Sometimes I'm a bobo myself when it comes to, I think it's going to come off, and there goes the seal right there. So that little seal comes right off. And I still can't get that rotor nut off. So we're going to keep twisting that guy off. Eventually we're going to get this thing apart here, take the rotor off the reel. You can see there's a seal right there on top of your pinion. No water, no sand, no grout. Look how beautiful that is. Now this is a really interesting part right here. I really like how this reel is designed on top. I'm going to switch out my bits again, and just the way that they, seal everything off here, I think is pretty cool. So we're going to take this top part off here. finally using that Phillips bit to take this top part of the, I don't even know what you even call this piece, but lifts right off, has a seal. And then you got another seal right there. That's going to keep a lot of water out. And as you can see, there's no water in this reel at all after reeling it underwater, dunking it, and just kind of just dragging it through the sand a little bit. And we fished it the day after I reeled underwater. And then I also fished it for the whole week, and we didn't rinse it off at all. So I'm going to take this little plate off as well. We're going to take this pinion gear out. You're going to see the AR. See, I don't want to lose the screw, so I'm being really careful right here. Last thing you want to do is lose screws to a fairly new reel that you can get parts for, but I don't want to lose anything. All right, we are in. So here's your bearing. You got a seal right on the around that piece there. No water, no sand. We're gonna pull this guy. Let's get the main gear out first. Look how beautiful the inside of that reel is. You can see there's nothing in there besides the grease that it came with. AR, pinion gear, everything looks good. No water, no sand. You know, that's the one thing that everybody is wanting to see. You know, I reeled this reel underwater for a little bit. You know, we've dunked it multiple times, and now I don't know how long you could keep reeling it underwater until water got inside the reel. But I say what I did is a pretty good test to let everybody know that we ain't BSing over here when it comes to putting our gear through some pretty gnarly tests. You know, when I post stuff online, I want to make sure everybody knows I'm being transparent with everything. You know, all my gear that I use and promote, I support 100% for a reason. I want you guys to understand it as well. I'm not blowing smoke. So we're going to put this guy back together. Real easy. You know, that's the one thing I really do like about the Penn reels is how easy it is to, you know, all their spinning reels are fairly easy to work on. You know, even for someone like myself that, you know, I've taken apart a fair share of reels over the years working at Betts. I'm not the reel guy, but out of all the reels I've taken apart, the Penn reels are probably one of the easiest. Shimano reels are fairly easy to take apart. Besides some of the newer ones with their new AR systems, kind of sketchy. You gotta be real careful with those because once they fall apart, it's really hard to put those things back together. But other than that, this is a pretty easy reel to take apart. A lot of beautiful seals on it. Everything went back together fairly easily. And we're good to go here. So just going to twist everything back into place. Don't over tighten it. Don't want to strip anything. So the last thing we want is to strip the reel or any of the screws so we have to replace anything. That's the last thing I want to do. Just a little love tap right there. Tighten them up just a little bit more. And we can go back and put the rotor back on. And that's when we can put the nut and basically just repeat what we just did the opposite way. Now the one thing is when you're putting everything back together, you don't want to forget something because the last thing you want to do is put your reel back together and then realize that, oh, I forgot to put this seal back in place, or I forgot to put this screw back here or there, and then you got to take everything apart again. Done that many times where I'll put a reel back together and I realize I forgot to put the side bearing back onto the main gear. And yeah, it doesn't work that well when you don't have your parts in place. See, I'm struggling here with trying to figure out what size bit I need for these screws. But like I said, everything's pretty easy, you know. And then I do that. The struggle is real. Nothing is, even when it is easy, it's not. struggling over here. Okay, put a little grease on the tip of that bit right there. If you want to make sure you get a good control of the screw, put a little grease on there so it sticks to it, and you're good to go. And we're going to put this shaft back in place like butter. I like how tiny that little guy is. Jeez. Little grease. See, put a little grease there. It sticks to those screws really well. Mink. And you're good to go. Twist that guy back in place. We'll go and we'll put the side plate back on. This reel will be normal. Now look at there. I put that gasket. I made sure that thing is perfectly in the groove of the reel because I do not want to pinch that and break it like I did the last one. Give it a little wiggle and it'll pop right back in place. There you go. So now I know that side plate's back on. I put the screws back in and we're good to go here. I don't have to worry about any water getting into that reel. The seals are all nice and tight and in the right place. I did not put any Loctite on those screws. I tightened them pretty tight, so we should be good. If you're on a boat, sometimes the vibration will get those screws to loosen, so put a little Loctite on there if you're on a boat. Now, the line roller. Everybody's wanting to know about the line roller. All right, so took a little bit of elbow grease to get this bolt off so we can get into the line roller here. There's a little bit of what looks like it could be some dried up salt water underneath that screw, but I'm not too sure. There's a little bit of Loctite on there. You can see right there. That's why it probably was a little bit harder to get off. Now, arm of the reel right there, you can see there's a little bit of there's a gasket right there that protects it from getting salt water inside. There's two bearings on this line roller, so I'm going to remove this piece here. You can see right there, there's a gasket on the bail arm itself. There's a bearing on the left side. I'm going to remove this, almost drop it and lose it. A little heart attack there. You can see there's a bearing and there's your gasket. So you got 3 seals on that line roller. So as you can see, there's no salt water, there's no grime, nothing in there, which is great because, you know, not only when you're reeling your line in with your braid, it's spraying water inside your line roller. You know, that whole area gets a lot of salt, sand, whatever's in the water. When you're reeling in your line, that's all spraying in there. So really good protection on that line roller, that bearing itself, and as you can see, there's no dirt or grime in there at all. Sealed pretty well, and then I'm going to put this piece back in place. I'm going to double check, make sure the bail arm and everything's connected properly, and we're going to twist that guy back in there without over tightening it. And we're good to go. We're ready to go back out and do some fishing. So I'm going to throw the spool back on this guy. Put the handle back on. Everything looked really good in this reel. I'm hoping everybody enjoyed watching this. Give it a good little spin right there. I actually feel smoother after taking it apart and putting it back together. You see all the grease and everything. Everything's good. Thumbs up. Gonna put that spool back on. Did not take the drag apart. Everything felt fine when I fished it. Didn't want to mess with that at all. That Duradrag material is good, and you can see that's, yeah, just grease. No salt in there. And we're good to go, man. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.